welcome to Staff Picks, the podcast for movie nerds by movie nerds. As always, I'm Mario Lanza, and I am your host on our journey through the movies out there that just need a little more love. And our movie today is our Christmas movie, Merry Christmas from Staff Picks. I've decided to pick a nice, family, warm movie for you. It is called A Christmas Horror Story. It is a nasty little anthology of Christmas-themed horror movies, and it's one that I feel especially strong about, but it's a movie that is virtually unknown. There are not many people that know about this movie, and I will say, first off, it's relatively new. It came out in 2015, so it kind of breaks my rule on Staff Picks, where I try to make a movie be at least 10 years old. This one kind of breaks the mold, just because I love that there's a Christmas horror movie out there, and I like this one in particular, so I'm very excited to talk about it. My guest for this one, he runs a couple podcasts on his own, big fan of movies, and just as a coincidence, I had mentioned a while back I love A Christmas Horror Story, and he's like, hey, I love that too. And I'm like, I'm so excited somebody knows about this movie other than me. So I was very excited about this, and so I'm welcoming him to the show. Welcome to Staff Picks, Brian Meagher.
Hey, Mario, thank you so much for having me on.
Now, welcome to Staff Picks, first of all. Tell us about what you do. I know you have even more podcasts than I do, correct?
Yeah, so I run a few podcasts. I think maybe the one that listeners to this show would be most interested in is Wicked Good Show, where my co-host Dylan and I talk about new releases of movies and, television shows. So we reviewed Stranger Things recently, for example, but, it'll be interesting to go back and talk about movies that haven't, come out right away. This is kind of nice. There's no looming pressure of, this needs to get out right away or else it's not going to be trending. So I do that. And then I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/wickedeverything, where we do pop culture content, video games, sketches, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, like I said, thank you so much for having me on.
I'm glad you brought out that thing about trending and pressure, because I don't know if people know this. I have bad anxiety. I've been on anxiety medication and counseling for years. I don't know how anybody could do a podcast where you must crank out recent content on a schedule. That would drive me insane.
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's just like I feel like I can kind of just hone the anxiety, but inside I'm just screaming at all hours of the day, because there's always something. There's always a piece of news that we're going to try to cover in, our Fake Nerds updates on the YouTube channel, or there's a movie or a new video game or something to review. And there's always like, I need to get this done. I need to, make this happen. And then once it's done, it's like, well, I can't even necessarily savor making this piece of content because there's something else right around the corner.
Well, that is not a problem that I face on Staff Picks, and that was very intentional. That all movies must be at least 10 years old, and that's functional reason one, so I don't have to adhere to a schedule, and the other one is that this is kind of sneaky, but I have a lot of friends that work in movies and editing and writing and stuff, and I don't want to get put in an awkward position where they want me to advertise their new movie.
Oh, that's smart, honestly, because a lot of times, in the semi-entertainment industry, I do comedy stuff. Maybe people come on with not the best intentions. They want to come on, you want to have them on, but they're just interested in, promoting themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to avoid. So good. So I'm glad we have very different approaches to our podcast, but you have the experience. I'm very excited because when I have someone on who actually does podcasts, it's a different dynamic and flow. Because I don't know if people are aware of this. A lot of times when I have people on Staff Picks, it's not only the first time I'm meeting them, but it's their first podcast they've ever done. So it gets real tricky. So this time I'll be reacting to you, basically.
Oh, I hope that the experience comes in handy, because I know how difficult it can be to try to push the show along, try to carry it when you're working with someone who maybe hasn't done this kind of thing before. I've fortunately a lot of episodes under my belt, but hopefully I'm not setting the bar too high. Now everyone's going to be like, man, he talked a big game, but he sucks. Oh, no.
I'm going to use that stinger clip at the end. You saying he talks a big game, but he sucks.
Hey, that's fine with me.
Okay, so A Christmas Horror Story. I'm very intrigued to know how you ran across this movie because, again, like I said, nobody knows about this movie. It's virtually unknown.
Yes, for real though. So my family has a tradition. Started a few years ago when my brother was like, "Hey, let's watch the Black Mirror episode, White Christmas," which is, a semi-horror-ish themed episode of Black Mirror. And from then on, every Christmas we watch a horror movie, which I think is a pretty normal thing for families to do, right? On Christmas. Yeah, completely normal. And so I think the second year my mom was like, "Oh, I found the perfect movie for this. It's a Christmas horror story." And we watch it, and it's campy, and it's silly, but it's fun. I especially like the I don't want to spoil anything, but there's the Santa storyline in this that I think's really fun. And it's just a silly movie that we watched, and I was like, man, I don't know anyone who's seen this before. I don't know anyone who's ever mentioned it, and I'll probably never talk about it again. And then I saw on Twitter you were like, "Hey, has anybody seen this movie?" And I was like, wow, yeah, I actually have. So yeah, that's how that happened.
So this was a mom pick. Your mom picked this movie.
Yeah, well, my mom's been instrumental in getting me into, just good television series and movies in general, and specifically horror movies. She's a huge horror movie fan, so all through my childhood, she was the one really showing me and introducing me to a lot of different classic horror movies.
Oh, okay. Now, is your mom available to do staff picks at some point?
I'll ask her once this episode's come out. I'll show her, and because like I said, she knows every classic horror movie there is.
Yeah, that's so cool. It says my experience with my mom is that I'd be like, say, "Hey mom, want to watch the South Park movie? You'd love this." And she's like, "How about we watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?" And I'm like, let's find a middle ground in there somewhere, mom. So that's cool. I'm glad your mom is hip to the movies of the kids.
Oh, absolutely. Well, especially for horror movies. Absolutely. She's always on the ball.
All right. Shout out to Mrs. Marr.
Yeah. Shout out, Mom.
Yeah, that's okay. So, as people obviously know if they listen to the show, I'm always out there looking for, underrated movies. Anything that just I think needs a little more publicity and attention. And so I'm always looking at these message boards like underrated horror movies. That's my favorite. If anybody has ever written a list, underrated horror movies, I have read your list because I searched this. I have a Twitter keyword search for that at all times, an alert. And 2 years ago, that's where I first heard about this one. Someone had said, "Hey, there's this made-for-cable movie or made-for-Netflix or whatever called A Christmas Horror Story." And they said, it's a lot like Trick or Treat, which people who know Staff Picks. Now, do you know Trick or Treat? Because I've already covered that one on Staff Picks.
So familiar with it, probably more just through word of mouth. I've never seen it myself.
Okay, yeah, it's very similar to this one. If you like one, you like the other. It's where they take a movie based around a holiday, they make 4 little mini stories, and they kind of have them intersect each other.
Okay.
And yeah, so for fans of the show, I was really high on Trick or Treat, and I'm really high on A Christmas Horror Story, which is, it feels like they're made by the same person. I know they're not, but it's the same tone, kind of playful, but it's still creepy, and there's some good images and eerie stuff going on there, but the tone isn't it's not super hardcore, this is not a torture porn movie or anything like that. This is a very lighthearted horror movie.
Mm-hmm. I think made even more so by the reoccurring character of DJ Danger Stan, played by William Shatner, who's my favorite part of this movie. I mean, Shatner's always awesome, but this is a fun character, and it seems like he had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah, it's for people who have not seen this movie, and again, I'm guessing that's almost all of you. William Shatner is featured prominently in this movie, and when you have William Shatner providing all your exposition, you know you're in good hands.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk a little. Doug, do you know the history of this movie, how it was made, who made it? Do you know anything about it? I'm curious.
No, other than the movie itself, I've often wondered, but I've never looked into it. So do you have the background of how this came to be?
All I know is that it's have you seen the movie Ginger Snaps about the werewolves?
Yes.
Okay, this
Very good.
movie, yeah, it's very good. We did that on Staff Picks earlier. This movie was made by the same people who made Ginger Snaps.
Oh, okay.
And the only reason I mention that is because the town in this movie is called Bailey Downs, which is the town in Ginger Snaps.
Oh, I like that. All right.
Yeah, so that's a little tie-in. So it's like a low budget, kind of maybe Canadian feature. I'm not sure if this is Canadian as well, but it's kind of low budget. Although I'm shocked that the effects in this movie are as good as they are for how low budget it is.
Like I'd say they're almost on par with like The Walking Dead at some points. It doesn't look cheap, and the monster in this movie I think looks really cool. Obviously, it helps when you get like a really jacked dude and you put on like the mega, but I think it's cool. And yeah, on the Wikipedia page, it does say country Canada, so I guess that means it was a Canadian movie.
I'm shocked how many Canadian horror movies I've done on Staff Picks. Like they crank out some interesting stuff, and like it seems like every one of them hits right in my wheelhouse. So shout out first to your mom, and now shout out to Canada for giving us good horror movies.
Yes, thank you, Canada. We appreciate it.
Yes. So now right off the bat, this movie is very hard to find, and that's always tricky on this show because people listen to these episodes. They're like, how can I find this?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I only found out about it because I still have the Netflix DVD service, and you can get this on a DVD. I don't know if they have this on Netflix. Where did you find it?
So, well, my mom found it at like Walmart originally, and then when I went to rewatch it, I had to go to iTunes and rent it.
Ah, okay.
So rent it $3.99 if you're interested. I'd say it's worth $3.99 to check out. What about you?
I would. It's worth up at least $4.99. Yes.
All right. So it's not worth the $7.99 they're charging for it though. If people want to own it, that's only for like the real big fans of it.
All right. This is how I'm gonna get you real jealous here, Brian.
Okay.
Is that about 3 months ago, there was a video store. It's like the last remaining DVD video store in California.
Yep.
They were going out of business, and they had a deal in there. Every single movie in the store was $1.
Oh, wow.
And so I love sales like that because the stuff that I want is not what everybody else wants. I'm always looking for obscure stuff. And I went in there, and I swear there was like 20 different obscure horror movies I'd always wanted, and one of them was this one. So I bought A Christmas Horror Story I now own for $1 on DVD.
That's awesome. I mean, it cost me almost 4 times that to rent it, so it's definitely worth $1.
Okay, so are you ready to delve into this story?
Oh, I'm so ready. Let's do it.
Yeah, now you will agree with me. I think we talked about this on Twitter. This is one crazy ass movie.
Yeah, it's insane. It's really unique, and I feel like pretty original. And one of the things I was thinking about it today, in preparation for the show, is like this is like 4 horror movies combined. Like there's all these plots happening at the same time, and each one of them could be their own full length, story. So it's very, very interesting in that aspect.
Yeah, it's you don't think that there's any scary like myths or movies associated with Christmas until you watch this movie and you realize, some of the stuff with like Jesus, and then there's Krampus, and there's the virgin birth. I'm like, there is some creepy stuff going on in Christmas when you think about it. So I'm amazed they were able to pull it off. But like none of the stories are actually a stretch. They all are like real scary Christmas stories.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And the way they weave them together was actually pretty creative, I thought.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the other thing we got to get across to people is that this movie is 4 stories in one. Really 5, I'll argue, but it's 4. The 4th one has a little spin-off at the end, but it's 4 stories, and they are told interchangeably would be the right word. Like they intersect, part of one and then part of another and part of another. So when we're discussing the plot, we're not going to be discussing it the way it's laid out in the movie, because I think that we'd agree that would be too complicated, right?
It would be really hard to follow if you haven't seen it, and even if you had seen it, it would kind of be hard because I'm sure we're going to go off on tangents and different stuff. So yeah, let's keep it kind of separated for each story.
Okay, so there will be 4 stories that we're going to be talking about, and I will refer to them by number. We'll get into it in a second. But first of all, there's a big wraparound, as these anthology movies tend to have. And this one is the story. It's Bailey Downs, this little city in Canada. And, oh, dang, that's not even the start of the movie. We start with Santa, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, we start off with, is the very first scene the
Yeah, it's
radio
Santa.
station?
Okay, I'll explain this. We're desperately trying not to get confused here, but it starts
Right.
off with Santa up in the North Pole, and he's in his the stable with all his reindeer.
Mhm.
Although the Santa in this movie is not your typical, fat, jolly elf Santa. This is like this big, grizzled, he looks like he's kind of mean and scary, and he's got this big scar down the front of his face, and you don't know why he's like that until later in the movie.
Right. They're like, could you, Santa, but sex them up a little, just make him look bangable. And that's what we really want for this movie.
Yes, middle-aged, bangable Santa. That's one of our main characters.
Right.
So Santa's in his stable, and he hears a commotion outside his stable, and again, it's Christmas Eve. And he's like, "Who's there at my stable?" And he grabs his axe, like he's going to fight somebody. And he's like, "Is it you? Is this our final battle?" And then that's the start of the movie, and we'll have a payoff at the end of the movie, but that's the opening. And then we get a little flashback. It says 12 hours earlier, and now we get Shatner.
Yes. So when I was watching this movie the first time, I was like, okay, I've seen a lot of low-budget horror movies. Very rarely do you see anybody you recognize. Maybe there are people that you will recognize in a few years, but to be met with the second character on screen as William Shatner, that was a real big surprise for me. What about you?
That's either a really big get by the producers of the movie or a very low point in the career of William Shatner. You can look at it one of two ways.
It's the two ships passing in the night of Shatner's career / these producers' career.
Oh my God, William Shatner was available. Wow. So they paid Shatner in cash under the table to appear.
Probably.
Yeah, and he's just a DJ, and he will narrate this entire movie. As all these stories are going on, William Shatner's narrating the movie. And what is his name? His name is Dangerous Dan, a disc jockey.
Yeah, DJ Dangerous Dan.
And he loves Christmas, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's one of those people who is aggressive about his love for Christmas. Everyone likes Christmas, I think. That's especially like the cheer, but he's the kind of guy who's like, "Oh, I like Christmas," and he's like, "Yeah, me too. Now let me corner you and tell you about how there's a war on it and how that's wrong." And you're like, "Oh man, I regret getting into this conversation at a holiday party." Damn.
Yeah, there's love Christmas and there's sexually love Christmas.
Yes,
he's bordering on that.
Mm-hmm. The Santa in this movie is actually his fan fiction version of Santa. That's how much he loves Christmas.
Wow, we're 10 minutes into the podcast. We have Shatner writing Santa /flick.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I hope that's what you wanted on this, or I misread it.
Yes. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's the birth of Jesus.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, William Shatner, he loves Christmas, and he's doing his little shtick on the radio, and he's just talking about how it's the time of giving and the time of family and the time of love, and he will pull out a little thing of eggnog and a little thing of, vodka? I'm not sure what he's putting in there.
Rum, maybe? It's some alcohol. He's getting lit on the radio.
Yeah, Shatner will grow progressively more and more drunk as the movie goes on. So he's a wonderful narrator and role model for the children.
Mm-hmm. It actually lists him in the plot synopsis as an alcoholic radio DJ, which I think is unfair. Yes, it's not appropriate to be drinking on the job, but he's not, spinning out. He's showing up on time and stuff. It's not that bad.
Here's the question. Do you think Shatner knew he was in a movie, or is this just him?
Yeah, no, I think they just recorded him and then wrote the rest of it off of whatever insane drunk ramblings.
Yes, it was bad. The first horror movie filmed on a GoPro.
Mm-hmm.
So Shatner is just narrating, and so apparently there's this food drive at the mall, down at the mall in Bailey Downs, and Shatner he's bummed he can't go. They're sending one of the other men from their news channel, the weatherman named Storm and Norman. And Storm and Norman will become very important to the plot, although you don't realize that right at the start.
Right, and Storm and Norman's not too happy to be doing it. He doesn't like Christmas.
Now, how would we know he doesn't like Christmas?
Well, he's like, hey, Storm and Norman, you're going down there. Isn't that great? And then Storm and Norman doesn't get on the mic and instead just writes "fuck Christmas" on a piece of paper and puts it up to the window.
Okay, now I know this was a Shatner home movie. I know Shatner's neighbors probably, But, so anyway, Storm and Norman is the grumpy old weatherman. He doesn't like Christmas. He doesn't want to take part in charity events. He holds up the sign that says "fuck Christmas," and so he's sort of the Grinch of the story. He will not come off well. Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, so Shatner, this is the wraparound story. Storm and Norman go into do the charity event, and Shatner will narrate. And now we go into the meat of the movie, the 4 stories. And I'm going to name or number these stories, Brian. Okay. So here we go. Number 1 we'll call the reporters. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so explain the setup for the reporters story.
So the reporters is 3 high school students who are doing it seems like documentary for their media studies class about these really horrific murders of their classmates that happened just a year ago. And they have to go into a basement where the murders took place to film their serial-esque documentary about the murders.
Yeah, okay, so, and again, we're going to go right through this story. In the movie, it's presented split up into little segments, so it happens part of it here, part there, part later. We're just going to go right through it, but the movie opens, so a year ago, there's this academy in Bailey Downs where 2 students were murdered. The girl, we'll find out in a second what happened to them, but these 2 kids were killed, and a year later, this student crew was going to do an on-site like a update on where the crime happened, what the crime site looks like now, and the fact that here's the fun part for the horror movie: the killer has not been caught yet.
Yes, that's never a good sign, and you want to stay away from any place where a killer has already killed if they're not caught. I think that's like one of the first rule of true crime. Like killers always return to the scene of the crime, and you don't want to be there.
Yeah, we might want to put up that notice at Camp Crystal Lake at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think after like 14, 15 counselors get murdered, people might look for jobs elsewhere.
Yeah. Fool me 16 times, shame on me.
Oh, man.
Okay, so we open with it's like a actual police footage. We see the murder scene, what happened at this murder, and basically this boy and this girl were murdered in this dorm. The boy was like crucified up against a wall. It's really kind of brutal. He gets spread armed, and his neck is broken, and the girl's body is hanging down from the rafters, and we see there's some words that have been written on the wall after their murder. Do you remember the actual phrase that's written here?
Oh gosh, what was it like? No, I'm not gonna know the exact quote. I'm sorry, Mario.
Luckily, with my extensive Bible knowledge, I've looked this up. I've never read the Bible, but anyway, there were exact phrases: "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given."
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's creepy on its own.
Yeah, and what is that? What is that Bible verse? It's like Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6.
Something like
yeah. That. So this whole first story is about children and giving birth and virgin birth, and it's very, very ties into the whole Jesus story. Again, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Right, Merry Christmas. Jesus' birthday. I believe DJ Dangerous Dan was very excited about Jesus' birthday in the first scene, so we got to tie that together.
Yeah, so these kids go into this basement of this school, and again, the school is closed because it's Christmas Eve, and it's this girl reporter and her 2 male assistants. One's a cameraman, I don't know what the other guy does. And they go into
sound, maybe?
Okay, good, sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go into this locked school. They have gotten keys. Their friend has stolen the keys so they can get down into the basement, and they do an on-site report on this creepy murder scene. And let's just say things are not going to go well.
No, and one of the things, let's pretend this isn't a horror movie for one. I get the feeling that maybe the downstairs part of this school is just off limits after the murders in general. But then they film down there, and they make a big deal about not wanting to get caught down there, but they're incriminating themselves pretty heavily by filming down there. So I don't know what they were thinking.
Now, in my personal opinion, this is the weakest of the 4 stories in the movie. What do you think?
Yeah, this is the one where when I was thinking back to the movie before I rewatched it, I was like, what was the thing in there? What was the scary part of that movie? But then watching it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's what that was.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see this movie 100 times and I'll always forget what the punchline or the ending of this one is. I'm like, all right, something bad happened. Okay, so let's walk through the story. They go down in the basement and it's like this abandoned little part of the school, and we find out this used to be an old convent. Like,
Yep.
in the old days, they would take unwed mothers here, like 15, 14-year-olds that got pregnant, and they'd throw them down here, and they'd either force them to have an abortion or this is where they'd give birth until you could show their face back in society. So there's a real nasty history down here, and the girl, the reporter, she knows all this, right?
Yeah, so, I guess you've seen this kind of narrative in a lot of stuff. New season of Daredevil, for instance, same deal. But yeah, this is a thing that would happen with the religious schools, where people would be, if they were part of a really religious family, they'd be sent away to these kind of schools to either have, like you said, the abortion or give birth and away from society's eye, and then they would return to their family. And yeah, she knows kind of what happened here, and she knows that beforehand there was somebody who claimed to be a virgin and was pregnant, and she tried to have an abortion and she passed away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the part of this movie I wish they would have hit this part, the story, a little better. Because I always forget that's in there, that they're trying to tie this in with the Virgin Mary, but it's just a throwaway line. Oh, this girl was pregnant, or a virgin, and she became pregnant. It's just a throwaway. I'm like, that's the crux of the story. We're recreating the Virgin Mary experience here.
Yeah, is this one out of all of them has like the heaviest religious overtones? The girl even makes a joke about, or maybe not even a joke, just a bitter statement when they see the nativity scene downstairs, and they're like, yeah, we couldn't put it up this year because of the war on Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like really heavy-handed almost. But yeah, like you said, they should have set this up more, and should have maybe tied in the original murders a little bit more to this, Yeah,
I totally agree. And don't worry, we're going to skim through this one because the other three stories are fantastic. So we're going to skim through this one a little bit. So they get down there and they shoot their little on-set piece and they film where the murder happened. And, to this day, still no one knows who killed them or why. And then, all of a sudden the doors to the thing shut and they're trapped down there in this haunted place where a murder took place. And then this is one of the creepier scenes in the movie. They go into a storage room where I have to say, my grandparents, when I was a kid, had a really big house in Seattle, and they had this big walk-in storage room, and they had life-size nativity scene in there, like these full-on Jesus statues that were bigger than me when I'm a kid.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
That room scared the hell out of me when I was a kid, when you're in there in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so that's exactly what this is. These kids get trapped in this room with all these giant nativity statues that just are staring at them, and all of a sudden these ghosts will start appearing in between them.
Yeah, and we get a lot of shots like through the camera, to kind of make it even more disoriented and make it more like from their POV, and kind of make you be like, wait, are they actually seeing a ghost, or is it just the nativity scene and they're just freaked out by being in a unfortunate situation?
Yeah, they're playing Little Mario Lands at the home game. This is me visiting my grandparents' house and hating that walk-in closet.
Hey man, it's even as an adult, when I worked at McDonald's back in a few years ago, we had like a life-size Santa thing down there in the basement, so I'd be like stocking shelves when like the load would come in at night, and every now and then just would catch it out of the corner of my eye and have a mini heart attack, like, oh my god, there's someone down here. Nope, just Santa creepily staring at me from the corner.
That is the plot for A McDonald's Horror Story starring Brian Meagher.
Right, yeah, they'll probably probably be seen by even less people than this movie.
You were not loving it.
No. Oh man.
So I'm going to skip to this one just because I like the other stories more. This is the most complicated story, so I'm not really doing it justice. But the gist of this one is that the girl who was 15 and was unable to have her baby. Many years ago, she was forced to have an abortion. She was 15. She gave virgin birth. She's been trying to get people to recreate her experience and give birth to her child for her. And so now that there's a female reporter down here, she has found her, what would be the right word? The incubator for her?
Yeah, the incubator, I don't know if it's the right word, but it's the most accurate word right there.
Yeah. So this spirit has possessed this girl, and basically she forces this girl to go and have sex with these two guys down there to try to get herself pregnant. And the first guy says, no, I got a girlfriend. So the girl, the demon, shoves a crucifix to the guy's eye and kills him. And then she goes to the other guy instead and says, let's have sex. And basically the guy just lays there and she mounts him, and we get a fairly graphic sex scene for a Christmas movie.
Yeah, this I don't know if you've ever seen the movie It Follows, but that's the only worse sex scene than this one.
Yeah, so she is possessed to have sex with this guy, and then the reporter girl becomes pregnant, and then this is the reveal at the end of the movie that she realizes she's been possessed by this 15-year-old girl who died many years ago. And that was the murder a year ago, is that this girl tried to possess these other two who were in here, and they refused to do it, so she killed them. So the reporter girl is now going to give birth to this girl's baby, and what is that? The spirit kills the other guy, the sound guy.
Yeah, kills Ben, I think his name was, maybe.
She crucifies him up against the wall, just like last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you think this is going to hold up in court for her? Or do you think she's going to go down for these murders?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't think Bailey Downs probably has the best police department, so I'm not sure. But yeah, this will be a hard one to defend in court, that you killed two guys and you ended up pregnant. But anyway, that's the end of the story. The reporter girl gets out, and now she's carrying this 15-year-old girl's baby from many decades ago, and it's kind of creepy and kind of religious. But again, it is the weakest of the four stories.
Right. So which one do we want to cover next?
I will leave it up to you. I will throw two stories out there. I will say one is the Krampus story, and one is the little boy story. You decide.
Well, I think they both have a connection, but let's go with the little boy story just because in this last story we just covered, one of the main characters is in it for a brief part. He's one of the police officers who investigate the original murders. Yeah.
And that's, if you'd seen Trick or Treat, in Trick or Treat all the stories intersect, all the characters and all the stories. This one does that a little at the start.
Yeah.
And they're watching the police video of the murder in the convent, and the police officer who's investigating it was so troubled by that murder scene with the guy crucified against the wall, he goes on leave, and he becomes the star of story number 2, the black guy, who he and his wife and his son are out getting a Christmas tree in the forest.
Yeah, on Christmas Eve, too. I don't know about you, but a lot of people I know, including my family, we have the Christmas tree up a little bit before the last minute, you know? I don't know what people generally do, but I think you're only going to enjoy it for one day, and you're just going to throw it out.
Yeah. Canada is a different place, my friend.
I guess so. It just seems like a lot of work for one day.
Yeah, we always go to get our tree at a tree farm a week before Christmas, and we get the worst selection because all the good ones are gone. So we get the little Charlie Brown tree. But that's still a couple days before this guy goes out. So, but then again, they're going out to the forest and they're cutting down a tree. So I guess if you're just going illegally to cut down a tree, you get the pick of the litter.
That's true. And it is authentic, you know. You're not any of this fake tree. It's only the real stuff. But there is a bit of a problem because they're doing this on someone's land.
Yes.
And he's a cop. I don't know if he feels like that makes him above the law or what.
Well, he's on leave. I don't think you're technically a cop when you're on leave.
Oh, right.
But yeah, this is story number 2, the Christmas tree story. My personal favorite story in the movie. My daughter, a big horror movie fan, I just asked her this afternoon. She said this was her favorite as well. Is this your favorite?
I like this one a lot. There is just something about the Santa story that just, for me, is if you're going to make a ridiculous movie, but this I think is probably the freakiest one. You know, the other one's just fun.
Yeah, this one would hold up as a standalone movie, I think.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we'll get to the good part. There's a special word I'm not saying. I don't want to spoil where it's going, but
Yeah,
we'll get there.
yeah.
So
it's a hard thing.
yeah, this family again, the African American family out in the woods, just walking into some no trespassing area, and we find out later why they shouldn't have been trespassing here.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just out in the snow, and they're cutting down a tree, and they're in the middle of the forest, and it's like at night, and they keep seeing things looking at them. They see like little eyes and little shadows, and like, this is kind of creepy in here.
Yeah, it's not great, but then again, like you said, Canada, maybe it's different. Maybe that's normal up there. I'm not sure.
Those are just all what, moose and elk and stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of wildlife, lot of strange tree elves. I assume. I don't know anything about Canada other than what South Park has taught me. So,
yeah. So they go out there and they cut down a tree, and as they're walking back, and again, it's a mom and a dad and a little. How old would you say this kid is? Like 5 or 6?
Yeah, 5, 6, no older than that.
Okay, Will, this cute little kid named Will. As they're walking back to their car with their tree, the kid disappears, and they're like, huh. And they panic, as one would do when your child is lost in the woods, and they go looking for him. Will, where's Will?
Yeah, I think that's even it's cold, it's winter, it's almost Christmas, and you're in the woods. It could be anywhere. Kids I found are a lot faster than you would think. Kids are so small, you'd think you'd never lose them, but this would be a pretty scary situation. I don't have any kids myself, so I know I can see to you on this.
Yeah. You did have 2 kids, but they ran away quickly, right?
Yeah, I couldn't catch them. They're gone.
Little bastards.
Yeah.
Okay, so Will is gone in the forest, and they go looking for him, and then all of a sudden he appears out of the hollow of a tree, like the Keebler elves, like those little holes in the wind. All of a sudden Will pops out, and they're like, Will, you scared us. But all of a sudden Will is not smiling anymore. He has a very different affect on his face.
Yeah, up before this, he's a very gung-ho, he has asthma, but that's not going to stop him. He's excited to be out here getting a tree with his parents. It's Christmas. He's a happy kid. And then after that, he's probably about what I was like as a kid, just straight face, not smiling too much.
I was going to go even further than that and say Will is now an asshole. He has become a giant asshole.
He really has.
This little Will kid, this actor's great. He's just stone-faced and he glares at you. He will not smile.
Yeah, no, that's actually the thing, because when you have roles that have to be played by actors this young, it's really hit or miss. It's either the kids are awful or they're amazing. And honestly, I think this kid's closer to amazing. He's really good in this.
Yeah. When I think of this movie, the 2 things I think of are 3: Santa, Krampus, and this kid.
Right.
All right, so, and we're going to spoil this a little, and it's impossible to talk about this movie without spoiling it, but it's not really a huge reveal. This isn't like The Sixth Sense. Right. But what happened is Will has been replaced out in the woods. Now, Brian, what has he been replaced by?
A changeling, which is like a evil spirit that, as someone whose heritage is from Ireland, that they're pretty popular there, but it's supposed to be, if you get lost in the woods, you get taken by the changelings, and a changeling will go in your place. And that's what happened to Will here.
Now, is this historically an Irish Christmas myth?
I don't know if it's Christmas specific, but I do know the myth is pretty popular in Irish folklore. Probably throughout Europe, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the one story that feels like it's not specific to Christmas, but it's based on a real urban legend, real mythology. So, and I think this is the creepiest one, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's some really effective shots. They do the reflection where you see Will as Will, but his reflection is this creepy little demon fairy thing.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Which is funny because he's not that dissimilar to the mascot in Trick or Treat, a little guy named, what is his name? I always forget his name. Damn it. Whatever his name is, I will insert in my audio of me saying his name.
Sam. His name was Sam.
So anyway, this whole story is the parents taking Will home, and it's slowly dawning on them that their son is not their son anymore. He's been replaced by a demon, an exact look-alike demon who A, wants to kill them, and B, wants to sample the pleasures of human flesh.
Yeah, this is the one horny demon. Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. We're recommending a movie where a little 6-year-old starts groping his mother.
I forgot that scene was in this until I was rewatching. I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, they have a little stunt midget down there. They're not going to let the 6-year-old grab the boobs, but a little stunt dude.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's a very interesting dream secret. It's, hey, happy holidays, everybody, you know?
Exactly. Spend time with your family and watch a Christmas horror story. So, and again, this movie is not like especially graphic or intense or like unpleasant. It's a fun movie. It's just there's some interesting themes going on in this movie. We'll just leave it at that. It's Canada.
I would say it's Canada, exactly. I would say this is like the perfect movie. You have like your family over, you're drinking your own spiked eggnog, and you're just having a good time, you know? You're like, don't take it too seriously. Just go into it and enjoy it.
So this is how you choose to celebrate the Christ child's birth, by showing this movie to Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, yo, William Shatner, remember Star Trek? He's in this.
Yes. All Star Trek fans. This is perfect for Star Trek fans. So, the parents take Will home, and they're dressing up the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve, and Will is just sitting there all stone-faced glaring at them, and they're like, our son's kind of a dick now. What happened to
Yeah,
Will?
this is his asthma's cured, but he is a bummer.
And so they're eating dinner, and like Will is just scarfing down food as fast as he can, and the mom's like, Pumpkin, please don't eat all that food so fast. And he just kind of glares at her and growls. And then the dad reaches over, he's like, Will, you listen to your mother. And Will stabs his father in the hand with a fork.
Oh man, and you see it coming, like like when his hand's going out, the way this kid's acting, there's something not right about him, and yeah, he gets stabbed right in the hand.
So already this is the worst Christmas Eve ever. And that the son is stabbing the father. So Will gets sent to his room, which is typical when you stab your father, go to the room. And now it's all hell's going to break loose because the dad is going to discipline Will. The dad is mad that the son is acting up. He pulls off his belt and he starts hitting Will. And the mom protects him. Mom's like, stop, don't hit my son. But changelings do not like to be beaten, apparently.
No, I mean, who does, but two, like that's a step over the line, like how dare you hit me with a belt? And I thought this kind of took a weird turn because obviously they kind of set what is his name, Scott, up as a sympathetic figure. He's just trying to do his best. He's had this really traumatic situation with work, and he's just trying to hold it all together. And then this is not a very nice scene. This is not good.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's an interesting turn. Although, first off, you said who likes to get beat. There probably is an S&M changeling out there who does enjoy this kind of stuff. I don't want to judge, but there probably is in Irish mythology.
I don't want to come on your podcast and kink shame. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I apologize to any BDSM changelings out there who are offended by that.
Yeah, my audience is like 10% changeling, so make sure that apology goes out there. So
oh man.
So Will is now taking over the house, and he's slowly infiltrating. And like we said earlier, we get the scene where the mom is asleep, and Will leaves his bed and decides to crawl up under her covers because he wants to taste her flesh.
Yeah, and before that, she's in the shower, and Will just like moseys on in there to watch her shower.
Changeling wants a little brown sugar.
Yeah, he's into it, man.
And again, this is her kid. He's 6. So we get this shot, and mercifully it's very short, of him crawling up under her covers and kind of, you can tell, feeling her up and grabbing her breast. And then she wakes up. She's like, huh? And Will is back in his bed very quickly. So he's not caught, but this is where it's going.
Right.
And I believe this is where she gets the warning call, right? She gets the guy who owned the property where the trees came from calls and says, did something happen to your son tonight? Because I have something bad to tell you.
Yeah, he's like, 5 hours ago I saw you, but I didn't want to say anything till now. I wanted to have the most dramatic effect possible. But hey, if your son's acting like a dick, might be because something bad happened. You should bring him back here.
Yeah. Full refund. Bring him back.
Right.
No questions asked. So he's like, just pay attention to your son. And she's like, and he's also like, by the way, or no, she hangs up on him at first. She doesn't believe him. She's like, no, go away. And then things are going to escalate when Will kills his father.
Yeah. Well, he just wanted to open some presents, enjoy Christmas, and he had to bring out the belt. So, he had to die, I guess.
Yeah. But this is where we get the creepy scenes you were talking about earlier. We see one shot of Will looking in a window, and you see the reflection of glowing eyes in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is that there's a scene with a dad sitting in the living room on the couch or something. I forget what he's doing. And Will is slowly crawling across the ceiling in the background.
Yeah, it's creepy. Oh, but hey, Scott, big fan of DJ Danger Stan. He's listening to him on the radio out there, so that's good little crossover.
Yeah.
He's getting drunk on the couch by himself on Christmas Eve after being stabbed in the head.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Will kills his father, and it's off camera. We don't see it. We just see the mom's reaction. She walks out, and her husband he's been choked. He has been strangled by the wires, and his hands have been chewed off.
Yeah. It's a little bit of overkill. I mean, but then again, don't want to, say what changelings are into or not. But
we don't judge.
Yeah, we don't judge. It just seems like it's kind of a lot for Christmas Eve,
Yeah, that's if only they'd gotten their tree on a different day, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So anyway, the mysterious man from the tree farm calls again. He's like, you probably have figured out by now you have a changeling that's a demon, and he's like, bring it back here, we'll get your child back, and also don't spook the changelings. Changelings do not like feeling in danger. They will react with violence. And so what does the mom do? The first thing she does is grab a baseball bat.
Well, as one does. I mean, maybe Will's just really into baseball.
Yes.
He's like, well, maybe I can trick him and be like, hey, we're gonna go play baseball. There's no reason to be alarmed. Just gonna get in the car.
Little Christmas Eve night baseball.
Yeah, this is how it is. It's Canada.
I know. What the fuck, Canada? It's weird. So yeah, she goes and grabs a baseball bat, and Will sees her, and he's a little spooked, so he attacks her, and she basically beats the hell out of him with a baseball bat. It's a very cool scene of a little stunt 6-year-old being whammed by a bat.
Yes. Oh man, this movie, man.
This is the movie that Jesus would have wanted on his birthday.
Oh, no doubt.
So she takes Will, and she drags him in her car, puts him in a burlap sack, and drags him back out to the forest. And the old man's there, and the old man, of course, has her son, right, ready for exchange?
Right, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Oh, tell people what happens.
All right, so we're reading straight from the synopsis, obviously. Don't want to mess it up. So they bring him back to... This guy's name is Big Earl. Did we mention that?
I never heard that name in the movie. Big Earl?
Yeah, so Big Earl... I don't know if he's named in the movie. But anyway, so brings the changeling back to Big Earl, who states that he's not able to help her find her son. It's up to the changelings now to decide. And, for that, Big Earl gets shot.
Yeah, Big Earl. Okay, so yeah, Big Earl has baited and switched her. This is now, do not do business, young business leaders. This is not how you do this. You lure the mom back with a promise you'll give her son. And she gets there, and he's like, I don't know where your son is. Can I have my changeling back?
Yeah,
so, he's a jerk.
This is maybe the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals, Mario. I don't know.
So he's I'm not sure we're allowed to use the word Indian giver, but whatever the Canadian equivalent to that is.
Right.
I promise you this. Just kidding.
First Nation giver? Is that the correct term?
Aboriginal, perhaps. I'm not sure exactly. So, yeah, she is mad that he will not give her son back, and she shoots him with a gun. And then it's just her and the changeling now in the forest. And the changeling is turned into full-on demon makeup, and he's like leering at her, and he is going to taste the pleasures of the flesh once again. But she begs him, right?
Right. So this is ridiculous. So basically, with Big Earl out of the picture, the changelings are no longer contained, right?
Yes.
And we get Will. We get Will back.
Yeah, well, she begs. The changelings, for some reason, feel bad for her. She's like, please give me my son. And all of a sudden, Will is released from his hold in some other upside down dimension he's been in, and he's released. So he comes out and hugs his mother, and it is probably the one happy ending in the movie. Although, I guess the father died, so it's not that happy.
Hey, Ben got a happy ending. I don't know what you're saying here, Mario.
Okay, so the mom comes out and she gets her son, and that's the end. And that's in my opinion, the best story in the movie, The Changeling, and it's the one I think it's everyone. That one stands out to pretty much everyone.
I think, yeah, it's the best. Like, as far as a horror movie goes, it's probably the best story. And like you said, if they add more characters and stuff, this could be its own movie itself.
Yeah, Big Earl. I think it's a Big Earl expanded universe.
Yeah, he's the Thanos of this universe.
Yes. All right, so that's 2 stories, and we got 2 more. And now we'll move on to, this one is fun. This is the big special effects centerpiece of the movie, the Krampus movie, or the Krampus story.
Yes. So what they don't use for making the driving scenes look legit, certainly put that money in the costume, because I do think the costume looks really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of CGI in this movie, and it looks really good. Again, for a low budget, almost direct to video movie, this Krampus effect is cool. This is, for people who don't know, Krampus is basically the anti-Santa Claus. As if our podcast is already bad enough, now we're going into blasphemy with anti-Santa Claus. So he's this big white demon who in Germany, somewhere.
Yeah, it's a German folklore, I believe.
Either that or Schrute Farms. I'm not sure exactly where this came from, but yeah. On Krampusnacht, which is the night before Christmas in German mythology, the Krampus demon comes out and he tortures and kills all the people who have committed sins. All the sinners in the world must pay for their sins. So that is the myth where we're going on this one.
Yeah, and so Krampus, I think, is kind of a fun myth. The idea that, like, all the good people get Santa, all the bad people get murdered by a half-goat man. It's very German. It's as German as you can get.
It's a big goat culture over there. So this is the story of this family, and they're like the worst family ever. The dad is a con artist, the mom is a nag, the son is just a little jerk, and the daughter is a thief. And they're going on family vacation. Although I should point out, the daughter in this movie is in the first Reporter movie. She's like the friends with the reporters. So it's like all the movies tie together in this first scene that she splits off and goes with her family here.
Yeah, she actually gets them the key in the first scene to get into the basement, and also dry humps one of the camera guy in front of her parents.
That guy got dry humped twice. No, that's a different guy. That's a different guy.
Right. He refused it because this was the girl that he was staying loyal to.
Okay, so the family is going, and it's Christmas Eve, and they're going out to visit their rich old aunt. They have this crazy aunt, and she's got a husband. What is his name? I just wrote it down. Gunther or something like that?
Yeah, Gerhardt. Yeah.
So he's Big Gerhardt.
Hell, yeah. Normal name.
Yeah, so they're going out to visit their aunt and uncle, and it's really just a pyramid scheme pitch that the dad is trying to hit up their rich relative on Christmas Eve and make her feel bad. So, again, this family sucks, and they get out to this mansion to visit their old rich aunt, and what happens here?
So he brings the aunt into the other room to pitch him, like all of your friends, if you're my age, 25, all of your friends from high school who didn't leave hometown will also be doing this, pitching you on a pyramid scheme. So you might be familiar, but he brings her out, and so the shitty family is hanging about, and the kid, who's the least likable kid of all time, probably, starts playing with this Krampus statue, and Gerhardt's like, hey, don't do that. And the kid, instead of being like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, he knocks it off the table like a little asshole.
Now, you said he's the least likable kid ever. Is he worse than asshole Will the Changeling?
I would prefer, well, that he was just driven by primal desire. This kid's just a dick.
I agree with you. I think that's an excellent answer. So yeah, this kid is breaking statues in his rich aunt's house on purpose just to spite the aunt and Uncle Gerhardt, and they kick him out. They're like, get out of here. We don't like you in our family. Get out of our house. And so
yeah, it's reasonable. I'm on their side 100%.
Yeah, you're Team Gerhardt for now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the family is driving home, and what we're led to believe is that the statue the little kid broke in the aunt's house is a statue of the Krampus. And if you break a statue of the Krampus on Christmas Eve, now you are an enemy of Krampusnacht, and the Krampus is going to come hunt you down and murder you.
Mm-hmm. As they do, Krampus is just waiting for some asshole to free him so he could get on with murdering.
Yeah, this is all based on a true story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is real, with the daughter named Caprice.
Caprice. A lot of Caprices walking around rural Canada.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the rest of this one. This one will become an action movie. This is one of the bigger action set pieces in the movie where the family's driving home, and all of a sudden the Krampus demon will hunt them down as they're driving home. Mm-hmm. And first he darts in front of them, he makes their car run off the road, and then they're stranded out in the middle of nowhere, and they're trying to walk through the forest back to the aunt's house. And this is basically the Hunger Games at this point, with the Krampus and his giant chain whip whipping them and killing them.
Yeah, so the dad gets, shot by the whip, but he's, bleeding a lot. But he's not in pain, it seems.
I know.
He's just like, oh, did I get shot? And it's like, yeah, that's probably what the, 5 gallons of blood coming out of you is. You definitely got hit by something. You don't feel this? I don't understand.
And the Krampus, for people who have not seen this before, he's big. He's not just a dude walking around in a goat costume. How tall is he? He's 8 feet tall. He's a big dude.
Yeah, so let me see if Rob Archer, I believe, is the actor's name. And in real life, that guy's 6'6", but he's 6'6" and just, straight muscle. He's played Jason Voorhees. Did he play Jason Voorhees? That might be wrong. Hold on. No, it doesn't look like he did it. He said he grew up admiring him. That was my mistake. But yeah, he's just a really built dude who is physically intimidating, and then they also put a goat head on him, which makes him even more terrifying.
I mean, that works with anybody. You put a goat head on Taylor Swift, and she's terrifying.
Yeah.
And the Krampus in this he's all dressed in white. Blinding white, huge goat horns, huge hooves, scary-looking, bare-chested dude. And he has his whip, and he whips the kid first. And he pulls the kid off to be eaten. And then, Brian said, he whips the dad in the stomach. He gut shots him. And the dad loses gallons and gallons of blood and is perfectly fine, apparently.
Yeah, he's not even in pain. He's just oh, did something hit me?
Just a flesh wound.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a flesh wound. I did really enjoy the shot when the kid gets pulled away, dropping the flare into the sea. It's really a well designed shot, in my opinion. It looks really cool. They did a good job with that.
Yeah, you don't see the Krampus for a while. You see this chain coming out of nowhere, wraps itself around someone's head, and they just get pulled out of frame. Right. So the kid gets yanked, and the family is getting attacked, so they run into this church. Apparently there's a church nearby.
Yeah, it's just an abandoned church,
Of course, as you do.
Right.
Which you think in Christmas Eve there would be people in the church.
Yeah, that's the people who are hanging on to the last thread of being religious. That's the one night that they will actually go to church.
Yeah, so. Or the shovel slayer in Home Alone, desperately waiting for the granddaughter to come visit him again.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, they're in the church, this abandoned church, and the dad's like, we'll be safe in here because we'll just confess our sins. You confess the sins in church, and Krampus will forgive you. And he is immediately grabbed by the neck by the chain and pulled out the window to his death. So that doesn't work.
No, it was a good try, I guess. But no, that was not going to work. Krampus is out for blood.
Yeah, the Krampus cannot be, what's the right word here? He can...
Tricked or thwarted?
Yeah, thwarted. You cannot thwart the Krampus. He will not stop until you pay for your sins. So the mom and the teenage daughter go into the confessional and try to hide in there. And this is an especially creepy scene where the Krampus is right outside the confessional shaking it, trying to get in to get them. And instead, he can't get through the door. He puts his tongue under the door and right up the daughter's thigh.
Oh, man. So, yeah, there are definitely some somewhat provocative scenes in this movie. I know in the first one we talked about that the girl's in a mini skirt and they play with a lot of almost low angles, that kind of thing. And this is along the same lines.
Yes, the family Christmas movie. where the Krampus's tongue is feeling up the teen girl.
Yeah, we got impregnation against someone's will in the first one. We got little changeling babies groping their moms in the second one, and then we got Krampus making moves with his tongue in this one. So that's good.
Yeah. And what's funny is we're not even to the tasteless segment yet.
Right.
So they impale the Krampus's tongue, and he runs off. And what do they try to? Oh, they get outside the church, and the Krampus is going to kill them. And the mom, the one noble person in this family, sacrifices herself. She tells her teen daughter, "Run away!" And the mom tries to fight the Krampus, is killed in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, doesn't
and
go
so now
well.
it's just the teen girl. The teen girl's the only one left. And when she runs back to her aunt and uncle's house to escape the Krampus, she's like, "Help, help, help!" And for some reason, she can't get in.
Yeah, for some reason, because the aunt doesn't let her in, right?
Well, yeah, the aunt has locked her out. The aunt knows she's out there. The aunt, we find out, has basically sent these family members to their death. That she knew the Krampus was going to get summoned, so she sent them out of the house. She locked her door. She put a crucifix on the door so the Krampus couldn't get in. And the family is now being butchered outside. So this is the final battle between the girl, Caprice, the Canadian, and the Krampus.
Yeah, and still on the aunt's side, honestly. Fuck this family. Just lock them out. Leave them in the snow. Better off in your giant house without them.
Yeah, so explain the twist ending. I always forget this one has a little bit of a twist ending.
So she manages to kill Krampus, which is dope. And then Krampus, obviously, is good for her, but he transforms into Gerhardt. So it actually was Gerhardt who was hunting them down. And it's revealed that Edna knew that this would happen. And because she's so mad, she takes on the form of Krampus and kills Edna. So it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, okay, let me summarize that for people who've never seen this. Yeah, so Gerhardt, the uncle, is the Krampus, and he tries to attack the girl. She impales him through the throat, and then she lights him on fire. And she has, what is her catchphrase? She's got a little action catchphrase right before she kills him. It's like "Merry Christmas, motherfucker" or something like that.
Do we need to pull up the script?
No, I think we're good. I'm going to say it's something along those lines. She gives a little Schwarzenegger one-liner.
Right. I can pull up the movie right now, too, if you want me to.
No, that's good. That's good.
All right.
I'm not going to put that much time into it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, so she kills the Krampus, and he transforms into Gerhardt, the creepy uncle. And she goes inside. She's like, Gerhardt was the Krampus. And Aunt Edna explains this. She's like, well, that's the thing with Christmas. If you have a dark heart full of hatred, the spirit of Christmas can get inside you and possess you. And we saw that in the first movie, or the first segment where the spirit possessed the girl. We're going to see it in the next segment with Santa, big time, where something possesses someone.
Oh, something does.
Yeah, and so the aunt's like, well, Gerhardt's heart was full of hate, and if you're angry on Christmas, the Krampus can possess you and become you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the girl, do you think that's the end of the movie? But the girl is furious. She's like, you left my family outside to die with the Krampus, you sick old bitch. And the aunt is like cowering, no. And the girl's like, if all you need is anger for the Krampus to get inside you, I'm furious right now. And she slowly starts morphing into the Krampus right in front of the aunt. And it's this great ending where the teen girl, Caprice, becomes Krampus and then murders the aunt out of retaliation. So that's the end of that one.
Yeah, so it's a fun ending. I think who knew that Krampus was inside us all along, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's not an entity out there that can be killed. He's an idea, and he's in your heart.
That's all. But only on Christmas Eve.
Only on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, so this is why if you have to go to the DMV, go on Christmas Eve, because it's going to piss you off and you'll become the Krampus, and everyone wins then.
Yeah, and it will be a lot of fun for you at that time. It won't be fun to be in DMV, but I guess much like the people in this, it's like, do they deserve it? Maybe. Who's to say?
Who's to say? Exactly.
Yeah.
On Christmas, who's to say who deserves to die horribly?
Right. I mean, hey, they're trying to get into a pyramid scheme. I'm fine with this. 100% okay with it.
Yeah, so this Krampus one, it's more like a Twilight Zone episode or like Amazing Stories. It's got the twist and the retaliation and retribution. So anyway, let's go to the fourth story.
Yeah, so this one's the one I think will stand out most. Like, if you're trying to pitch it to someone and they're on the fence, He's just gonna be like, yo, Santa, zombie elves, watch this movie. I don't know what you want.
Yeah. I agree with you. The Changeling segment is my favorite. I think it's the best. This is the segment that represents this movie much better. Santa fighting zombie elves, where we're going to get Santa's workshop basically becomes the Evil Dead for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I wish there was more of this just because it's so ridiculous and so over the top. But like it's like the Trojan horse. It gets you in the door, and then like the Changeling is the meat of the movie.
You're the first person to compare a Christmas horror story to Greek mythology.
Well, I hope that the filmmakers would hope, or rather, how do I phrase this? I think the filmmakers would hope that one day someone would compare their movie to Greek mythology.
Although this is Canadian, not Greek, so it would technically be the Trojan moose.
I love it.
I was saving that joke for a while. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, this is a very simple storyline. It's Santa is in his workshop, and again, it's bangable Santa from the beginning, old grizzled muscle Santa.
Yep.
And he's in his workshop on Christmas Eve, and one of his elves, his beloved elves, Shiny, comes down with an illness.
Yeah, so this illness apparently makes you really irritable before killing you, and then afterwards too, actually. But so Shiny, this elf, is a little bit of a potty mouth, and then hits himself in the hand with an axe and dies.
This one, the way we're describing it, is going to sound more horrible and disgusting than it is, but it's really just very cartoony.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Shiny cuts off his own hand, and then he succumbs to the zombie sickness, which, for inexplicable reasons, has invaded the North Pole. Mm-hmm. And quickly, Shiny dies, and when he dies, his blood splatters on everybody else, and every other elf in the North Pole now becomes a zombie, and they attack Santa.
Yeah, so there's some really fun scenes in this, like when he's running into the elevator, he's getting chased by these zombies, and a bunch of them get in, and you're like, oh no, what's going to happen? And then it opens, and Santa's just standing there covered in blood with all the elves like dead around him, and it's like, oh shit, this is a bad, like you said at the beginning, Mario, he has an axe on his staff now, so he's ready. He knew that it was going to come to this one way or another.
Yeah, Santa's got an axe and he's got the staff, and literally he becomes Bruce Campbell in this movie. Like it's
so good.
It's just ass kicking Santa left and right, decapitating elves with his staff, impaling them, bludgeoning. I'm trying to think of other key action verbs.
He throws one out a window. Like it's so much.
It's just cartoony. These little elves flinging themselves at him, Santa beating the crap out of them, impaling them, and then it's just, over and over scenes of this, and Santa getting progressively more pissed. Like it's ass kicking Santa now. He's just going crazy, and then he fights off all the elves, and he's killed basically everyone in the North Pole. And then we get the boss match at the end, the final showdown, where he meets Mrs. Claus.
Right. Well, I do want to say one thing. I want to give some credit to Shiny here. His lines are so funny. He's just like cursing like a sailor. Like, he calls Santa, I think, a Christmas cocksucker at one point. Like, it's just so much. None of the other zombies talk, but he does.
Yeah, Shiny is just one long string of expletives. And you said the Christmas, that word, and also the 4-letter word for female genitalia that starts with a C, that also pops out of his mouth. Yep. Shiny is just a total a-hole, just cursing at Santa, and Santa kills him like 4 different times, if I recall.
Yeah.
Shiny keeps coming back.
As an actor, the actor who played Shiny must have just had a lot of fun with this role.
Yes. Unkillable zombie elf. It's a trope.
Yep. He's just swearing the entire time.
So Santa kills them all, and then he kills Mrs. Claus. She knifes him across the face. That's how he gets a scratch.
Yeah, right.
And it's just, Santa's been through hell. He's been fighting everybody off and killing them, and he gets to the end of the movie. And this is where we wrap around to the very first scene in the movie where Santa's in his stable, and he hears someone outside. And he's like, who is that? Is that Krampus? And all of a sudden we get the big boss match of all time where Santa with his axe fights the Krampus with his chain for the future and spirit of all Christmas.
Yeah, it's on the cover. It's the poster rather. Not a video game, it's a movie. So it's on the poster. This is the selling point of the movie. We get the good version of Christmas, the bad version of Christmas, mano a mano, facing off in a pretty violent fight, honestly.
Yeah. And this is the end of the movie. We don't see who wins this fight because this movie has a twist. And I'll let you explain it in a second, Brian, but let me set it up that all throughout this movie, we've seen William Shatner on the radio, Dangerous, whatever, Dan, I forget his name, but
Dangerous Dan, DJ Dangerous Dan.
Yeah, so he's walking people through Christmas, and he keeps talking about all these horrors that happen in Bailey Downs and how this town is cursed on Christmas. And he keeps saying, there's this food drive down at the mall. Our weatherman, Storm and Norman, went down to the food drive, but apparently there's some situation down at the mall.
Right.
And he's like, cops have been called in, and there's hostages and murders, and it's the most terrible thing. And we get updates on this throughout the movie that there's this horrible situation at the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we get the big twist in the movie, the one that really sells this for me. What is that twist, Brian?
So it turns out that sexy Santa himself is just a mall Santa named Norman, who had a mental breakdown while working overtime and just started killing people in the mall. And we get flashbacks from him killing the elves and what it was really him just killing innocent people at the food drive. And yeah, what did you think of this twist when you were first watching it?
I love this twist because it takes this movie up from this movie's very silly and lightweight, and it really makes it hardcore at the end. Mm-hmm. And it just gives us some legitimacy, that Storm and Norman has been out at this food drive and he hates Christmas. He's the guy that says fuck Christmas at the start. He's been sent out to do a food drive dressed as Santa. And at some point in the evening he has snapped, and we don't see it, but he has taken his axe and murdered probably 50 people at the mall.
Right. It's there's that one part where he kills an elf who's like cowering in a closet, and then it turns out that that's just some scared girl, and it adds like a lot to like, oh man, this was fun watching him kill the elves, but now I just feel bad. This is messed up.
Yeah, the whole zombie elf subplot was just a cover for that was in his mind. He was killing innocent people, women and children, and it's horrible. And you don't see it. Again, it's kind of in your head. You just kind of see the aftermath of all these dead bodies. But I should point out there was a horror movie back in the 80s called Silent Night, Deadly Night. Mm-hmm. Which involves Santa, a guy in a Santa suit killing people.
Oh, all right.
And that movie was banned in like countries and states for years. It was one of the movies you were not allowed to rent in a video store because the idea of Santa killing people in a mall was so abhorrent. So I want to point that out to throw that away as
how far we've come.
Yeah, a little throwaway subplot in this movie. Like that, times have changed quite a bit since the 80s when that would make a movie be banned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, not even a blip now. Now it's just like a fun ending to an anthology film.
Yeah, a fun little twist.
You have to send me the name of that after the show. I want to check that movie out now.
Yeah, if you can find it. I've never actually seen it. It's just, I'll send it to you. It's for people. It's called Silent Night, Deadly Night, and it's a guy who kills people as Santa. It's a very notorious movie. Even as a kid, I knew I'm not allowed to watch that. That's way too hardcore for me.
Gotcha. I'll let you know if I find it.
Okay, so that's the end of the movie. We finally flash back to reality, and Storm and Norman realizes what he's done. He has snapped and killed everybody in this mall. He's like, oh my God, and he raises the axe when the cops come there, and they all shoot him, and so he's killed, and he dies, and that's really the end of the movie. Like I said, the fourth story really becomes a fifth story, Storm and Norman. Mm-hmm. And we just end with William Shatner on his radio show, who's gotten progressively more drunk and trashed, and now he's lamenting, like, why are we cursed in Bailey Downs? Every year on Christmas, horrible things happen. And he's like, remember, just grab your loved ones and give them a hug. And in the spirit of the holiday season, just remember, be with your family, and they may not be here tomorrow. And that's the end of the movie, the most joyful Christmas movie I've ever seen.
It's really wonderful. It's just such a interesting idea, like one to have a horror movie set at Christmas. There's not many of those. There's like Black Christmas, of course, the most famous one, and then can't really think of any more. And then this one's very interesting, very unique, very campy, but a good time.
Yeah, it's not so hardcore that non-horror fans won't enjoy it. It's not going to scare you off, but it's got enough bite to it that it has horror legitimacy. And like I know the reviews on this one are not super high. Some people really like it, some people really don't. It gets compared to Trick or Treat a lot.
Right.
And I don't know if it's as good as Trick or Treat, but I think it occupies the same place that I'm hoping this one becomes the Christmas horror movie because, like you said, there aren't really any other ones, and it's accessible enough. I think it can pass as this is a fun movie that should be better known.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it just really needs to get like on Sci-Fi Channel or something that like people will flip to and be like, wait, what is this? And watch, and that could be how it becomes like a cult classic, if you will.
Yeah. And again, it's only 4 years old, and I thought it had been released direct to video or direct to Netflix. I read somewhere it had a very limited release in theaters. That shocks me. I would love to meet somebody who actually saw this in the theater because I don't think it exists. I think they made that up.
Yeah, it says, so let's see. July 20th, it played at the Fantasia International Film Festival, and then October 23rd, 2015, it released, but then it says only in Canada in theaters. So we weren't even able to see it down here.
It was a limited release in Canada, which begs the question, does that even count as a release?
Right. I'd love to see the box office gross on this one.
We got one theater out in Kamloops. It was there for a couple days.
Oh, man.
So anyway, a very little known movie that I am pleased to bring you here on Staff Picks. And again, so excited, Brian. I found somebody else who knows this movie. So I think we're the two. And then I've shown it to my wife and daughter and my friend Matt and Fiona. And I think we're the 6 people who have seen it.
And my mom. Don't forget her.
And your mom. Oh, yeah, that's right. Mrs. Marr. She rocks.
Yeah, so she's going to be really excited for this episode. She's going to be like, oh, my God, are other people talking about this?
Do we have to tone down some of the language for your mom? We kind of got racy on this one.
Oh, like I said, I've been doing stuff on comedy on the internet for so long, and then my brother's a stand-up comedian. I think she's just desensitized to the stuff that comes out of our mouths these days.
I'm very excited that this one gets an explicit rating in iTunes. That's how I know we had a good episode, when I get that all-exciting E rating.
Hey, I do what I can, Mario. And what I can't do is be crass and swear, I guess.
Thank you for coming to help me class up my podcast. I know you can plug your stuff once again. How can people find you if they want to look into more of your stuff?
All right, so you can find me on Twitter at the fake BMAR. That's the fake and then BMARR. And then on YouTube at youtube.com/WickedEverything. And the podcast is Wicked Good Show, where we review movies. The last movie review was Joker, so the out of date by the time this podcast comes out, but I'm sure we'll have reviewed more recent movies by then.
Yeah, for people who don't know, we're recording this in October. I will release it in December. So again, I hope all the snow is coming down on you, and Merry Christmas. And again, my name is Mario Lanza. Again, this is Staff Picks. If you need to reach me, you can reach me on email at staffpickspodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter at Mario J. Lanza. Until the next time, I'll be out there looking for more super obscure horror movies nobody has ever seen before, and I will do my best to get people to know about them. And I will also be very good on Christmas Eve and avoiding the Krampus. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
I'm gonna eat your fucking brains out, you Christmas cunt. Fuck you! I'll break that fucking stop in your rosy cheeked ass, you fucker.